Evan, I'm curious, is what Matt texted you today enough for the call?
Are you live? You're
Yeah,
live.
we're live.
Is it? I mean, no is the fundamental answer to that. I don't even know like what I would charge for this in
the
a
most
conventional setting.
the most
We can't afford
generic
it.
write up ever.
I
I
mean,
even
you know,
the only
I
thing
appreciate your trust in me. Let's put it that way. You know, I'm
I
gonna.
drew a picture, man.
You
A
did draw
picture's
a
worth
picture.
1,000 words.
A picture that is open to lots of interpretation. Shall we say?
Pendel, Matt.
1,000 unambiguous words, bro.
He goes, Pendel, Matt with glasses. Joran, 10-foot tall behemoth. You already drew him. Smitha, thick walking palm with a God's Wood in Game of Thrones face.
Thick with two C's.
Chugach, antlered wolf. Venus, 8-tailed red panda. Adder, you drew. And then Luke, alligator with a patagium.
The flying squirrel, like webbing
So
kind of thing, kind of
no
deal.
pressure.
Yeah.
And he
See,
gave me a
look.
picture.
He even knows what patagium is. Maybe he knows how to say it. That's how I would say it.
Is it patagium?
I would have said patagium.
Dude,
Yeah, that sounds good.
Just to be
pinky
contrarian.
That's the most pinky out way to say patagium there is, man.
I have no idea what's happening right now.
So basically, Matt gave Evan. What's up, everybody? If you're tuning in, if you're watching the replay, feel free to write replay in the comments, because if you write a comment, it helps us reach more people. So just write something. If you're joining us live, where are you at? What path are you walking in Bastunia? And of course, what questions do you have for us? Casey, I'm going to answer your question while I give the agenda to everybody today. We have 2 illustrators. Oh my gosh, our illustrator team is growing. We have Evan, the ever fun, ever vibrant, ever exciting, joyful,
talkative.
jovial, talkative, bubbly.
I thought you were sticking with E adjectives.
Oh, just ever. Just say ever before anything else. Evan, the grumpy man. We're going to have him, but we also have our illustrator prime, Casey, who has been in the comments multiple times. You now get to see him work on. He will be working on a calling creation from one of our backers. It's for her kid. Ashley, if you are here, this is for your daughter. And Evan will be working on probably his hardest task to date. He will be drawing a scene.
Well, certainly with these jokers.
He'll be drawing a scene from Matt's upcoming book, Behind the Shroud. It is going to have 2 humans, and I'm pretty sure it's going to have 5 or 6 callings. And Matt has a great picture that he drew and a really well elaborated text that he gave Evan. So, Casey, that fills you in. Evan is confused because he is working off of Matt's picture right here.
Oh, okay, I saw the picture and I was like, I don't know.
The giant crab snail.
Hold on. I'm gonna ask.
I thought it was a clam with legs.
There we go. Clam with legs.
You want to see what it is? Once people see what it is, they're gonna be like, "All right, actually, you know what? That's great."
Yeah,
that's
definitely
what you want in a successful illustration. The need to explain it for them to understand what they're looking at.
Yeah, like one of Dylan's jokes.
Writers, am I right?
Jeez. Writers are the worst. So, Matt, go ahead. What is Evan drawing today?
All right. So there is a lot going on. That is true. It is a scene from the upcoming story Behind the Shroud, as Dylan mentioned. There's these 2 characters in the story. Pendelv the Parser. Parser meaning like Bastunian inspector, like a detective. And Joran the Jester. A jester, self-explanatory. Pendelv gets called in to investigate this crime, a series of poisonings. And basically the night that he gets there, something happens and everyone in town, all of the law enforcement, they're like, We got our guy. There he is. His name's Joran. He's that weird guy that lives outside of town. You know, the guy we always see him juggling? He's like the worst juggler I've ever seen. That guy. And Pendelv isn't so sure that he's the guy. He finds himself in a situation where, either he needs to help him or let him be hanged. Spoilers to the story. There's no way around this. There's some spoilers coming. We're drawing them, so I might as well tell you about it. If this wasn't a spoiler enough,
Very generous
please,
we there.
Please.
I mean,
yeah,
it takes a village. It takes a village.
Come on, man. Here's the proof. So Pendelv decides, all right, this guy Jordan's going to live to die another day. I'm going to help him. Helps him. They flee from the town square where this hanging is happening, and they find themselves up on top of this hill. And the lynch mob is coming in from one direction. This quick backstory: there's a point where Joran's callings. He has 3. This is one of them that we're looking at, named They're imprisoned, and they escape from prison. You can't restrain this beast. They escape from prison. They're on the way back. So there's this convergence that's happening. Joran and Pendelv are coming up, running away from the lynch mob. Joran's beasts are escaping from a different direction, and they're coming to meet on this hill. So they get to the hill, and Pendelv's like, well, what are we going to do now? They're like literally on top of us. We're about to be vaporized. Joran's like, don't worry, I got a plan.
Every good jester.
Pendelv, yeah. And do you trust this 10-foot tall juggling behemoth clown to actually have a good plan? Do you trust this guy with your life?
Yes.
Is he actually
asking
10 foot tall?
He's 10
Yeah,
foot tall.
Dylan.
Matt made him, I don't know, Matt made him 10 foot tall. We're like, I'm reading it, and all of a sudden Matt's like, by the way, Joran is 10 feet tall. And I'm like, what? And he just went with it. So yeah, he's 10 foot tall.
Okay. All right, cool.
There's
I was seeing if you were being hyperbolic or not.
Oh,
No.
he's huge.
There's a couple of scenes in this story. This is one of them where I'm just like, we're going to go with it.
It's the most terrifying juggler in the studio.
What would you juggle if you were 10 feet tall?
Tell us about. I want to know about abilities, Dylan.
So I think it's a cool thing. Like, Matt's writing a story that was inspired by a calling creation. So this is one of the things that we would like to get to with our Kickstarters, with our calling creations. Just so we know, Casey's working on them. One of them right now. If you look at the bottom left, you'll see him working on this amazing sea dragon. But there's a chance that when we start to see this stuff, we go, "Hey," Matt goes, "I have a story for this thing," and that's what we've done with So is an explorer calling that I created for myself that is part mushroom because I love foraging mushrooms. It is part peacock because I am very flashy and I love to make Evan's life miserable. And it's part kangaroo because I wanted him to be a explorer pilot. I wanted him to explore via the air, but I didn't want it to have wings. So Matt's like, what if it could jump really high and it could parachute from place to place? And I'm like, that sounds flippin' awesome. Didn't swear. So is exactly what you're seeing on the screen. He's part kangaroo, part mushroom, part peacock. I created him at being like the size of maybe me, maybe a little bit shorter than me. Matt did take creative liberties, which I love. And in this story, he is 25 feet tall, like 20 feet wide or something like that for a 10-foot jester. So yeah, that's and can I kind of start to talk a little bit of is going to be carrying?
Yeah.
Because these guys, from what I'm reading, if you haven't read Behind the Shroud, go to our Facebook group and you can start to read chapter by chapter. Be a beta reader, as we would call it. Not an editor, but you get to read it and give us your thoughts early on. So Joran and Pendelv are getting chased by this lynch mob. They meet up with their callings, and they're like, what the heck do we do? Joran's like, I got another great idea. they get on to and they just take off. Has the ability as an external talent, if anyone is curious about our abilities, to jump really high because he's a parachute. So these guys climb on the back of a portobello mushroom, and the portobello mushroom leaps into the air. So in this picture that Evan is drawing, we're going to see the main figure here, with 3 to 4 people / callings on his back. And
It's not fluid. It's not fluid. We know how many people are on its back.
How many are?
It's defined. There are four.
There are 12 people on his
and 3 in his hands.
There's 3 in his hands, 4 on his back, and it's jumping in the air.
It's like the old expression.
And that's what we're going to see. Evan, I'm going to get ready to change the screen, and he's done.
Amazing.
I love it.
All right.
I have
All right.
Is right.
That's his name. I have my first question for Evan, if that's cool. And if you have questions, feel free to ask questions in the comments. My first question for Evan is, we cannot be the first person that sends you something this crazy. When you get these crazy requests from a team that you're working with, from dumb writers, what's honestly, what's the first thing because some of these people that are watching might be like, hey, my kid's really interested in illustrating. They're going to not only have to learn the illustration craft, but they're also going to have to learn the mindset,
the
craft.
dealing with clients craft.
Yeah. What's the first thing you do when you get something like this?
I mean, you really want to understand the purpose of an illustration. If it's really just like, this is my vision, I want to put this on my wall, this is how I imagined it, please do it like this. There's not a whole lot of room for argument, but usually there's not argument, that's the wrong word. There's not a lot of room for push and pull, but
Discord.
usually, discord. Usually an illustration is serving some kind of purpose, whether that's like a piece of marketing or to tell a story, more likely, as far as what I deal with. And so, you as the illustrator are typically trusted to have the kinds of experience to be able to say, like, that is cool, but it might not be the most effective way to do what you're trying to do. And so you need to find a way to communicate that. And you can't really just say, like, no, that's not good. You need to have an alternative, or you need to find a way to kind of guide those visions together and find a middle ground.
So would you say it's similar to like what we would ask for editors that go through Matt's novel, go through Matt's story Behind the Shroud? One thing that we'll say to an editor is you can never just say you don't like something. You have to at least give like, hey, I don't like this. What if we did this instead? So it's like, you can't just say it's bad. You have to be able to give an alternative. Is it similar when it comes to illustrating?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's a lot of pressure to say, like, you need to have the alternative solution that is definitely going to work, but you need to have at least a path forward. Like, let's try it this way and see how that works. Might not work, might not be better even, but let's give it a try and make sure that it doesn't work before we rule it out. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so it can be like a light counter of like, hey, let's shift a little bit more this way. So you're at least starting a conversation rather than just being like, I don't like it.
Correct.
Got it. I think that's also because, like, Matt, I'll be curious your thoughts here. It's like when we can do this, I think a lot of people don't realize, like, I don't want to say we're flying by the seat of our pants as we create these stories, but we are extremely adaptable to starting something and then hearing from somebody else. It almost helps. Like, as I'm reading through your books, I'm like, I don't know about this, or what do we think about this? That then sometimes helps you like 2 to 3 chapters later. You know what I mean? Be like, oh, I can actually make this story better. Do you feel that way or no?
I definitely feel that way. And every story that we tell, and there's quite a few being told in parts simultaneously, adds more color to the next story. Mm-hmm. I love the process that we're running with. Even just like the little random, what were we talking about the other day?
Government.
We're making the comment, man, I haven't been bored in 17 years. Because these types of questions, they're incredibly random. Like, what is the hierarchy of the government in in this period of the world. What does it look like 200 years later? Every night I'm going to bed thinking about something entirely random like this that adds color.
And it's like, what shifts? So I think for a lot of people that are looking to write stories in general, I think it's good to have certain foundations and then get started and trust that you'll be able to world build as you go. Like, you're never going to have the world, in my opinion, 100% figured out when you start a story. It's like going from here. If I wanted to go visit Evan right now, which I do. Are you in Florida right now, Evan, or are you in
No, I'm in San Francisco.
The great San Francisco. And I wanted to go visit Evan, and I'm like, man, I will go as soon as every light turns green. I'm never going to leave. I think it's like having a direction of where to head and then trust that I might have to take a detour because Chicago traffic sucks. Yeah. So coming back to Evan, when you hear a very well-detailed, for anyone that's curious, Matt gave a very well-detailed picture, and he gave a very well-detailed text to Evan today on what he should draw today.
And a 3-minute voice memo they probably didn't listen to.
And a 3-minute voice memo.
I did not. I don't do voice memos.
What are we doing?
Gotcha.
So,
well, good to know.
A 3-minute voice memo he didn't listen to. A text today about a thing that he's drawing today, and a very good, like, let's be a very good picture. Evan, you just got that today. So what would, like, if you were to go conversation, because you said I'll get this sometimes and I'll kind of give an idea back rather than just say you get what you're asking for. What would be something you would want to edit or ask about with this picture? Yes, you are drawing.
Ah, very, very good.
I got that.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Casey, thanks, Casey.
Honestly, not necessarily anything. I don't have a problem with the concept. I have a problem with having to do it in an hour on little to no input.
Great job.
Without having pre-designed a lot of these characters. Like I think it would be really fun to spend time working on the palm and making it look like this, kind of walking radish character. I think I'd have a lot of fun with that. I'm not really getting the chance to kind of explore that fully here and problem solve it, and so I'm not sure that it's working. But I'm gonna go with it and see what comes of it.
If you are watching right now, please feel free to let us know what you're starting to see in this picture, and it could be completely wrong, and we will probably laugh at it. Matt, when you see Evan, I'm just playing middleman here. Evan's taking creative liberty, starting to draw.
Mediator.
Exactly. What are some of the things you're seeing? Is there anything to shift? Is there any edits as Matt does pull up a picture of what he would like?
Well, let's just take my design for a moment and let's peek at that. The extent of my drawing ability is either front profile or your side profile. I don't have any ability to do this sort of like 45-degree angle. But honestly, if I did have that ability, and thanks, man, as Evan clearly does, this is the perfect profile to be able to actually see everything that's like supposed to be happening in this. Like, all right, if has 2 arms and he's cradling 3 creatures.
Could you do us a favor and just so we're on the same page, point to where the arms are on yours?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're going to feel
cradling them or eating them.
Oh, boy. There's the hands. I bet you feel pretty dumb now that I point that out. It's quite obvious.
Oh God!
Is this one of those situations where like some people see an old woman and some people see a young, beautiful lady? Because I see a beautiful lady. Well, anyway, so this 45-degree angle profile is just like the best way to showcase everything that's happening. Because for me, it was overlapping and busy and impossible to even understand. Unless you're me, then you understand perfectly.
It is crazy that when you sent it, I'm like, I see it. I'm like, there's true catch. That's but we talk about this literally every day.
Yeah, and you've read the story.
And I've read the story. Let's go. I'll ask these questions if none of you jerks are going to ask any questions here. Favorite thing. Let's go, Matt.
Correct.
And I'm going to lean over to Casey. Matt, right now, favorite thing about writing this current story Behind the Shroud, which will now be our second novel in the Unfound Adventures world.
Right. We haven't had an opportunity to really showcase full-powered humans, Bastunians, in the story yet. I mean, you have James, but the story isn't really about James, nor is it in a time when James is at his prime. He's all right, but he's definitely been more high-powered. So it's a fun opportunity to take 6 different beasts with 6 different masteries. In fact, we've introduced an idea where, yes, every beast, every calling is born with sort of this innate mastery, but as your connection with your calling enhances and your calling grows in stature and strength and power, you can awaken a second ability, a second mastery, and there's 9 of them. And so playing in that space where you have 6 callings, and between them, I think they have like 10 or 11 masteries. It's pretty complex. Like, Sanderson does this so well, and having world building that almost, in a great way, and I mean this in a great way, but like kind of screws you over. It gives you such a big challenge. Like, hey, I'm going to try to balance all these things and not leave any plot holes.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been enjoying the challenge.
What do you do when you get to a point you're like, oh shoot, I have a potential? Have you got to a point where you're like, I have a potential plot hole here yet? And if so, what do you do?
Yeah. Well, okay. So very first scene in the story. Now, I avoided the plot hole really, and have rewritten some things so it's not a plot hole anymore. But very first scene in the story, there's Pendelf walking into town, and he really wants to arrive in town with secrecy. So he uses his beast, Chugach, which is this antlered wolf that has this ability to manipulate electromagnetism. And one thing that you can do if you were manipulating electromagnetism is you actually can create this fog. It's electric fog. It's the same thing that you'd see out in the Bermuda Triangle when things get lost. It's like a weird static, and it's still water vapor. And again, spoilers, but one of the big bads in this story has a vulnerability to water, like a hydrophobia. And not until like really late in the story, at this point, did it even occur to me. It actually occurred to me basically at the perfect time. But at any point, Pendelf could just like throw up a fog, and these creatures that have this like aqua hydrophobia, whatever it would be called, wouldn't want to go in the fog, and he's like trying to flee from them and hide from them, and it's like, well, this is the easiest possible way for him to just get away. And up to that point, I had planned like this extremely elaborate escape sequence when a simple solution was right under my nose the whole time. It almost appeared too late.
Do you get to a point where you're just like, oh, dang, I have a plot hole, and it's back in like chapter 2, and I'm on chapter 13. Do you go back and solve that right away, or you're just like, oh, mental note, I'll go get it later?
No, some things will keep me up at night, and I'll go back and solve them. In this case, though, there were other gray areas in the story that served as a better way to answer that plot hole or answer that potential challenge than going back and rewriting things, actually. Mm-hmm. And not to say too much, but you have probably 10 named story, and at the point where this became a dilemma, I realized that I hadn't given a couple of them masteries. So their beast just was like, it was there, but it hadn't showcased what it could do yet. And it was as simple as like, oh shoot, I still want them to pursue. What happens if he just throws up a fog? Is he just going to he's going to escape? It's going to be so easy. So I used one of the foil characters, sort of the villain-esque characters, masteries to answer that plot hole.
kind of
And it
cool when
was
you can
just
bring in
like
a bunch. You can bring like magic powers in to like nullify any potential plot holes for another magical power.
right.
Okay, Evan, what keeps you up at night?
In general,
Yep.
spiders. Poor product design. Goat creep.
Unnecessary sexualization of
Unnecessary
illustrations.
sexualization of female characters. Yes, we've had some talks on this. I think
Trash.
that gaming and entertainment art in general suffers from a massive amount of unnecessary sexualization of female characters without cause.
Not if you ask Trash.
Not related to Trash's personal requests.
I know it's not related. Thank you. I'll make sure to make a note there. And Casey, I said we come to you.
Oh boy.
You're now working on your second calling creation. So we're actually building a team now. You had the spike. What was that? A spike lion? Triangle lion. With the flaming tail.
Yeah.
And now
It was a
awesome.
hot tail.
Hot tail. Very hot. What was the other things that he said about it? What was it? Hot tail, angry.
Spikes.
Spikes, like every third word.
Like arrows everywhere. Spikes.
And now
I'll pull it up.
Now you're drawing us. Yeah, you pull it up, and then we'll go over to the sea dragon. What has been the most enjoyable thing for you? Starting to draw these callings from these. Literally, you are using pictures young kids have drawn. Whereas like Evan, Matt, you probably work with a little bit more than Evan on this one. No, Evan typically gets like detailed. We're telling him everything about it. You're getting pictures from young kids anywhere from kindergarten to 5th grade. What's been the most enjoyable thing for you so far?
On this one specifically, or just in general?
We'll just say in general, and then I'm going to go to specifically.
Okay. In general, I think it's
Matt.
like really cool. Like, okay, so I'm trying to put myself in this, in the shoes of these kids where, a giant redheaded guy comes to my classroom, starts talking about this fantasy world that he's built, and then like, oh my gosh, you get to draw something, and then we've got pros that are going to actually, put it in this comic book universe. All you got to do is draw it. Like, I would be just ecstatic about that myself. I mean, I've been drawing since, I can't remember a time when I didn't like drawing. So
hasn't been bored in 20 some years, Matt.
Yeah, sounds like it.
So you get to like see something like this. Is there something specific when you start drawing? You're like, I'm going to focus on this first. Like, is there anything like, what did you focus on first with the spike lion? What are you focusing on first with this water dragon?
Yeah. So like, okay, for the spike lion, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I noticed, because, I was looking at this huge, like, plethora of different callings that people have made, and I got to choose the one that I wanted. I noticed that this kid drew it on lined paper. That was like the first thing I noticed, and I was
Nerd.
like, all right,
you
homie is into it. I was like, he's going above and beyond now, because like he's into into whatever creation he's making. And so from there I was like, all right, well, this kid's obviously got some sort of passion for it.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go with that one first.
Yeah, man. So it's like you can see with it, it's like you're looking to see what kid cares about this the most. Like their heart is, I want to draw. I really want to put myself in this world, because that kid, I did not pass out those pieces of paper. That means he went home, got it, and like went back to work.
Yeah.
And then, Matt, can you go to so we'll go picture of, so this is what you worked with.
Yes.
Like really here to work. And then Matt, can you go to the picture of the sea dragon from the kid? I don't know if it's on Facebook or if it's in Slack.
And I've got it pulled up already.
My man, this guy, dude. I'd be curious. And Casey, the question's going to be like, what's the first thing that you noticed, and what's the first thing you're like, oh, I want to bring this to. I want to make sure I bring this to life.
Sure.
Or this is the flair that I want to add, because this is what you were working with. This is from, her name is Ashley. Her and I actually met on a flight from, I think I was flying from Utah back to Michigan. And she sat next to me, and I had my book out, and she goes, "That's a really cool comic." And I'm like, "Yeah, me and my partners created this." She's like, "Oh my gosh." We started talking. She's like, "My kid loves this." I told her about it, and her kid drew this sea dragon. She also wrote a little bit about it.
Mm-hmm.
Casey, what's the first thing that you noticed, or what's the first thing you wanted to bring to life, or that you wanted to add yourself to it?
Sure. I mean, first thing I noticed is there's a lot of ambiguity, which can be good or bad, right? Like, there's like, if you look at it, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, these could be eyes, or this could be nostrils. These could be fins, or they could be like spikes. Mm-hmm. What way do I want to lean with that? And of course, if she's here, she could, yell at me and art direct.
Already said she loved it.
All right, sweet. There was, what way do I want to go? Which that's fun, and I think it's like kind of an interesting challenge. Mm-hmm. And then I went through and I actually like read through the writing itself.
It's a good story. That
and I was like, this is like a cool, like compelling story,
Yeah. Is there? Was there?
I haven't seen the writing.
Oh, it's also in Facebook. I think it's the second. It's the second picture. I was gonna ask Casey, and then we're gonna come back to Evan's anxiety level as he draws this. Last thing, Casey, is there anything? You're a nerd, similar to me. D&D.
You are a fake nerd, Dylan. We've discussed this.
Just because you and I have different nerddoms, I mean, this is what's the problem about nerds. You see it a lot in the anime culture. People get into these groups in social media because they feel ostracized. They're like, if I start talking to my friends about this, they're not going to like it. So I'm going to go talk to like-minded individuals. And then you go into these nerd communities, and they are ruthless towards each other, very similar to what Evan's doing to me right now. People are just looking for community, and then there's a bunch of infighting. Absolutely horrible. Shame on you, Evan. Casey, was there anything from your specific nerddom background, which I will respect no matter what it is? Is there anything you stemmed off of to create this character?
I mean, like, I've always been a big fan of fantasy and that entire genre. Mm-hmm. I think really like if I had to find where like the genesis of this inspiration came from, I'm thinking like Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? Okay. Which, like, if anyone's unaware, which you shouldn't be because you should watch it, the way that animals are presented are always like, hey, we're going to mash up at least 2 or more animals, and then, that'll be like fully rendered. Mm-hmm. Like, they'll give it a backstory and everything. And, I think that's sort of where I kind of leaned in. So I'm like, okay, I know this is snake-like. So, yeah, I've drawn snakes before. Well, I'll lean into, maybe like a viper or something. Mm-hmm. And then, what else? I'm like, okay, we could lean in, a little bit frog-like, mm-hmm. amphibian. I could go into, dolphins. Eventually, I was like, no, I'm going to go like full dragon. So, I gave it kind of the sort of like axolotl dragon ear things. Yeah. Which I always think look like really cool.
Yeah.
And
it's funny you say
I tried
that.
to echo that.
Sorry,
with the fins and stuff.
But
yeah,
I was gonna say sea serpent and axolotl is the two things. Like salamander, axolotl is what I saw. So that's that. So for you, it's blending 2 different creatures. Look at that cute little thing. Before we go over to Mean Evan, what do you feel is the biggest, other than values, because we've already made the joke 2-3 times, too many. Biggest thing you've learned since working with Evan?
Oh boy.
No pressure.
Evan's such a great guy.
I can control his mute. I can control his mute button.
No, honestly, it's been the working in a team atmosphere, I think, is probably because I mean, before working with Evan and some of the other illustrators, it's been me solo for 33 years. And so it's really cool. It's fun. It's humbling. But like, oh my gosh, man, I absolutely love it because no one around, like none of my friends have an interest like this. Like most of my friends are musicians and, I am as well, but this is not the thing we bond over. It was always music before this. So it's really fun to have like another person where I'm like, oh yeah, we can nerd out about art and nerd out about the rights of artists being exploited.
There it is.
Name one thing. No, I'm kidding. But to transition over to Evan, favorite part, or the thing that you like most about having a team?
I mean, I think everybody in this kind of field or realm works best when you're not just in a vacuum. You can be amazing, of course, but I think that we all grow the most, we learn the most, and as a result, a lot of the projects that we work on also grow the most when we have like a really rich feedback loop and sounding board to bounce off of, and all that good stuff. We all kind of take from one another. We all absorb one another's design choices or some of our intuition or instincts that may be different from one another. And we choose to incorporate those into our workflows, in different ways. But even if we don't, it still becomes additional data points to help define how we make choices and solve problems going forward. I mean, a lot of the visual identity of a project is not something that I could in any way determine on my own. It's often a result of the osmosis, the amalgamation of everyone's collective visions.
Second time I heard amalgamation today. Learning just a bunch of big words. Do you feel, I know superlative arguments suck, but it's really difficult. Do you think creativity can exist pure creativity can exist in a vacuum, solely by yourself? That's the question kind of for each of you. We'll go Evan, Matt.
I do not understand the question.
Do you feel like it's easier to be? Do you feel like it's even possible to stay creative if you're kind of just doing this in a room by yourself? So, for instance, what I just heard from Casey is he's got friend groups that you guys kind of bond over music, but when it comes to writing or drawing, you don't really have a lot of people. So having someone like an Evan opens you up to nerd out, talk about things, get better at things because you're consistently working on a craft and then talking to someone about it. Evan, then same question when we talk about having a team, and it's an amalgamation. We're working towards something together. So for me, that leans towards the side of creativity flourishes when you have a team or people in your life. How does it exist on the other side? Is where my mind, it seems very difficult for creativity to exist. You're just by yourself in a room trying to be creative.
I mean, I think that's true, but it really depends on the goal of, what you're trying to obtain or achieve by being creative. Mm-hmm. Self-expression doesn't necessarily need, other people. Maybe it does, for a lot of forms of expression, you do need some kind of audience or some kind of feedback loop. But I don't think that it's necessarily a prerequisite for creativity. I think if you're talking about a craft and a collective vision and, the difference between working smart and working hard, you can work as hard as you possibly can alone in a room in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. And it will you will get better absolutely. As long as you're practicing, you will get better. But with more people, you can potentially work smarter. You can get better quicker. You can get better more effectively or more actively, or have more articulatable intuition as to what and how you are improving.
Yeah. Matt, your thoughts on this? Because what I hear from
Similar, yeah. Yeah, creativity seems like the most natural thing to result from me being alone. But mastery seems like something that's reliant on peers. One of the things that you brought into my life in many ways, Dylan, for your love of them, is frameworks. I think knowing a way to approach something. I have my own ways. Knowing a way to approach something, knowing how to think about something. When somebody has gone ahead and they've made something, the confusion of the world somehow orderly for you, you can come in, you can say, hey, here's a structure. Maybe that, I think that's expedites my mastery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what I was hearing from Evan is it sounds similar to like the difference you hear in a lot of the preface or the prologue. What's at the end of the book? Is that prologue?
Epilogue.
Or epilogue.
Epilogue
Of the Dark Tower
Epilogue.
series. Epilogue. Real quick, epilogue or
Thanks, Casey.
Hey, no problem. I'm here for you guys.
A lot of the epilogues of the Dark Tower series, people like write into Stephen King, and then he kind of like talks to the readers. And he was saying, like, for him, he does very much just go to his house in Bangor, Maine, and just rifles out books, and he's pretty much by himself. Now, maybe he
just
works
bangs out gore.
That is very true. Maybe he works with his wife because I know she's a author as well. But it just seems very much like he is to himself, just writing. And then you also Oh.
No. I'm sorry. You finish up. Then I'll prove you wrong. Oh wait. While you collect yourself, Matt, does Pendolph wear a hat of any kind or?
No, he doesn't.
No hat. Okay. Does he have hair?
Yes, he has hair.
Long.
Here's an example of what his head might look like.
Oh, good
All right.
example.
Deep Widow's Peak. Got it.
Let me know if you.
No. That's a receding hairline, man.
Evan's just coming
Get it
out
right.
firing on all cylinders. I was then going to say the other side being more of like a James Patterson who has a full team where he's pretty much plotting out all of his books. He's got like a team that literally plots out each paragraph and then someone that goes and writes it. But go ahead, Evan. Prove me wrong.
No, I'm not really. I just first of all, Stephen King, I would take to be anecdotal only because he's one extraordinarily prolific writer. I don't necessarily think that taking him as the rule is a wise choice if you're trying to develop your own craft of writing. And I think to a degree, like to the extent that I've read his work or on writing and all of that, I think he would probably agree at least insofar as it's not necessarily about like being around other writers per se, but it is about being around other influences. Mm-hmm. So for something like production art or even writing, for entertainment, like there's a specific kind of value that comes from being in a writer's room. And that can have its negatives and its positives. But when we're talking about like developing your writing muscles, there's a huge amount of value to being around other people. I think Stephen King would agree with that. I don't want to speak for him at all. And I know that his own experiences with, creative writing in school were really polarizing for him because, nobody was interested in genre work in those courses. And I get that. I've seen that same attitude firsthand with writing and art. But I don't think it necessarily serves as a counterpoint to the claim that artists can learn from and feed off of each other in positive ways.
Yeah, man. Because on my side, it's just like imagination for me, like you were saying, Matt, like going to bed thinking of the world, like all of that, it's like, yeah, I'd love to do that just in the comfort of my house, the comfort of my room alone. But when it comes to like creativity, me, someone like a natural loves social interaction, and it could also come from the fact that I work with an incredible writer and incredible illustrators, where I'm like, I don't want to say reliant, but also definitely lean into y'all's masteries here. It just, for me, there's times it just feels impossible to really work on a big creative project solo. I'd be screwed. I'd be so screwed. Y'all are incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think having
Yeah.
having extra people, you know, at least on the outside, helps a little bit. I mean, like, okay, to speak to the writing side. By the way, surprise, I do some writing as well. But yep.
Yay.
My writing usually is in the form of like a D&D game, right? And I'm like the things that happen in my game, you know, I've got you know, things that I have planned, right? And anybody that's ever played D&D can tell you that those players,
things I have planned, I started laughing.
Yep, they're like, no, we're not gonna do that. And you know, they have to. They just, I don't know why, they have to throw a wrench in your design constantly. That's what players are for. And then that causes me to have to like fully rewrite things or come up with fully new plot lines that never existed, all because these jerk friends of mine, you know, want to ruin my world.
What if we jump
Can I
off
ask
this
you, though,
ledge right now?
When you write, do you write some fiction as well?
I have.
I mean,
yes.
just like full stories. Yeah.
Yes.
Do you ever have your characters do the same thing? You know, they're not even real people, but they do the same jerk stuff to you out of a demand for maintaining the integrity of a character you've created?
Like they do something that I'm like, man, I hate that this character does this thing.
More so, I just realized that this character wouldn't do this.
Oh,
they do
yeah.
something else. I mean, it's all happening in your experience, but
yes. Yeah, it's the worst. I'm like, man, why you got to be like this?
I think it's a hallmark of someone who truly honors the sentience of a fictional character that's living only in you.
Yep.
Like, you give them life, and then they have free will.
But and then also with it too, Casey, it sounds like what you're getting at is like, I got these jerk friends that somehow rolled a 20, and they can actually jump this high and get to this area that I've never thought of. I have to completely rewrite a plot now. Then that causes you to be like, all right, what is it? So then you're consistently perfecting the craft because it's like it keeps you constantly on your toes.
Yes.
Yeah,
constantly.
Because I even got it playing D&D where I'm like, I know exactly what I'm going to do on my next turn in like a fight scene or in a let's say where I'm in a haggling scene and I'm the bard that's supposed to do something, and then we have a jerk barbarian that goes right before me. He's like, I actually am going to strangle this person to get what we want from him. And I'm like, whoa, that's I'm next. I'm supposed to go next. That's not what so like I actually did it back when I was in a sales seat, Matt. I'm like, for me, it was not only something that was fun and creative to do, but it like I wanted to be able to think on my toes. So I'm like, this is a win for my nerd self, and it's going to help me in like my day to day. But I think that just goes to show of like people that can constantly force you to feel uncomfortable and be like, oh shoot, I got to think in an uncomfort zone right now, is where you're going to get the best out of your craft. Even if that person is scoffs at your level of nerddom over their level of nerddom, because you just, you know, you just like different nerd stuff. You know what I mean? Is anyone?
It's a good thing that doesn't ever happen.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
Hello?
Never happens here. Oh, man.
Let's go. I got a question for Evan next. Evan,
Yeah.
what do you like about me the most? I was gonna move on, but now
You have 10
actually
minutes.
make it more
We'll wait.
uncomfortable. I'm gonna stay. What's your favorite thing?
I mean, you've definitely got an unpollutable drive to do what you want to do, to get what you want to get done. Am I supposed to seriously answer this question, or is
I mean,
this
I wasn't thinking you were going to.
was
but
were you just setting me up to trade some barbs?
I wasn't thinking you were going to, but the fact you're actually saying something serious now makes me feel good. So if you do
All
want
right,
to finish,
well, there you go. No, I'm done. I'm done.
My
I think
actual,
we covered it.
my actual question, because we're coming up in 10 minutes left, man. What do you feel more? And again, we're telling Evan to write a scene for one of our stories coming up. We do not expect you to finish this. Maybe we finish it on the next live that we do as well.
Yeah, maybe.
What is the thing that you're feeling more comfortable with now that you actually just got uncomfortable and started getting your hands dirty with this, Evan? And what still feels like it's not fully there?
I mean, I guess like the individual design. I mean, we're at a point where we're fighting a different battle now. If let me bring this all back up. I'd say most of today was spent just kind of laying in a scene, composing the scene, and there's a certain degree of elements that I had already resolved, like the way body works, because I've drawn him before and designed him before, and I kind of put some thought into what he's going to look like jumping through midair in a way that gives every character some degree of visibility and staging, and uses the right kinds of like overlap as well.
It's not just me that lost him at as well, is it?
Yeah, I lost him.
All
I
right,
lost
so
him.
he's gonna hopefully come back and
Can you just like
trying to
say
keep
what
in mind.
Oh, there we go.
Hello.
We
lost
lost
you.
him.
Where'd you lose
lost
me?
you at as well, but I couldn't tell you. Like, you want to show every single person
Okay,
in this.
I
as
don't
well.
know.
So how about this? How about this? Because I want you to continue to answer the question, and it's going to go with Cam, who just came in. What's up, Cam? We're going out for dinner next week. My neighbor mows my lawn perfectly. He's the best neighbor in the world. He's coming in now. He's like, "What are you guys creating today?" So I'm actually going to pass it over to Evan on answering this question to see how he would describe what he's creating today. And then
honestly, the real test here would be to ask Cam what he sees, but I'll go ahead and
put the guy on the spot. Let's put you. We're putting you on the spot here.
Yeah.
And then
so
Cam
we are
answering the comments as he's talking.
This is a full-on multi-character dynamic in mid-air illustration that I received the brief for like 5 minutes before this call. And it depicts. So there are two characters, human characters in the scene: Pendel the parser and Joran the clown, the jester. Joran the jester.
Keep the actor. Keep
who I prefer to think of as simply Matt and Dylan, respectively. Makes things a lot easier for me. And this big gray creature here is Dylan's beast, quite large. It's basically a giant mushroom with kangaroo legs and a peacock tail, jumping through the air while holding onto a cackling Joran the Jester, a very large adder, the dog-like beast, and on its back, which is now covered in vines, thanks to Smitha, the what I like to think of as a walking radish.
It works.
It happened again. Walking radish, just so we know where he ended, and I'm gonna keep going. The deer thing would be another column.
Vines.
I'm back. We lost you at walking radish.
It's fine. I didn't say anything after that anyway. Walking radish covered the thing in vines. All the other things are hanging onto it. Hanging onto those vines, we have Chugosh, which is Pendel's wolf, antlered wolf beast. We have
a deer thing. There you go. That's
the red panda thing. I don't remember the name of the red panda. Varna? No, not Varna.
You'll get there. It's Venus, but it's a red panda with eight tails.
Red panda with 8 tails. Venus, and we have Lutch, the tiny alligator with patagium, the flying squirrel wings between its legs. So it's hanging on by clutching onto a vine with its jaws, and it seems to have been picked up by the wind underneath its patagium, and so it's kind of trailing behind a little bit. And
nice.
then we have a very shocked Pendelv the parser, aka Matt with glasses and no hat, hanging on for dear life, unsure how he got himself into this predicament as per the events of his story.
This guy, hey, for
Hold on.
having what you had from Matt today, which, real quick, Matt, just to make it easier for Cam to know what we're drawing, do you want to just show him?
Yeah.
Show him real quick.
Yeah, I'll show him a couple different.
Nope. Show him the picture. Show him the real picture that he needs to see.
Oh, you mean this one?
Yeah. That's perfect. Evan, can you stop screen sharing real quick just so we can get this bigger?
I guess so, yeah.
And then I promise we'll bring you back in. Look at that. Beautiful. I mean, that's what he's drawing right there, bottom right.
Yeah, that covers it. I don't even know why I bothered.
Honestly, like,
Yeah. So rotate.
why do you need us?
profile.
Period.
He just wasted 55 minutes when we could have just shown him Matt's drawing.
Totally.
I know.
What were you going to
Look
show
at.
Matt?
Imagine the difference in our project if I were to draw.
Would be
Speaking
so
of, there's a
good.
Kickstarter coming up. You can get access to Dylan's drawings, perhaps,
Oh, man.
Ooh.
So
or even better than mine.
it's I was going to say something of like it made me feel a little bit better about my drawings. So,
Really? Are you serious?
wait for it. Looks like a guy holding a huge football.
Looks like a football holding a very small guy.
Casey said a crab with legs, or no, a clam with legs.
No, there's a clam.
It's crab
100%.
with legs. Yeah, we have a Kickstarter coming up. We're going to be talking about the adventures of Beck and Keith. It'll be our children's book. You have a chance, anyone watching this, whether live or the replay, we do have a tier where you could have your own child come to life in the pages of our children's book series, where Beck and Keith will meet your kid on their adventures to create their own story. We have, even right here, we have Keith the Curious. We have Raina. Is it Raina the Reckless?
Yep.
Raina the Reckless. We have Ingrid the Innocent.
I don't recall being a part of this conversation.
Yeah, because you never are, so we're doing it for you. It would be Matt, give us some help here. Scarlet the
Sinister. That's probably not what you want to call your kid. Maybe.
Scarlet
Savvy.
Scarlet the Savvy. Scarlet the Scholar.
Funky.
I know my kid's pretty
Scholar.
sinister right now. She's teething again. So.
Rappy.
Keith just turned 1 last week. Still no teeth.
My gosh.
Floppy.
And he's huge. 99th percentile. Yeah. Like Morgan said she took him for his 1-year checkup, and it was like the typical girl at this age, the typical boy at this age, and then it was like Keith, and it was in red. So that was scary.
Danger.
So we have that coming up, and so it's a $3,000 Kickstarter. We're trying to hit 3,000. The reason we're lowering our goal is we're actually doing Kickstarters in back-to-back months. We're doing a Kickstarter in August, and we're doing a Kickstarter in September or October. We're still trying to figure that out. August will be all about children's books. September or October is the next comic. And if we hit the $4,500 tier, book 4 is coming out in the comic, but you will actually be able to see book 5 through the lens of Dylan's stick figure creations. It's not that. 1 second. It's one of us. It could be. Casey, you're muted just in case the dog was you. Evan, can we throw your picture up again?
My screen? Yeah.
Yeah. So if we hit the $4,500 tier, you get to see all of Dylan's really crappy stick figure drawings for an entire comic, which is, I promise you, is embarrassing. And there is a part of me that hopes we don't hit that tier because I don't want y'all to see it. It's bad. If you think Matt's drawings are bad, just imagine 20 pages of them, and that's what you're going to see with me. So you have a chance to see that. You have a chance to get plushies. You have a chance to win a nice watercolor painting from our great Evan Winston. We also have a chance to bring Trash the Clown's children's book to life. We have a $10,000 stretch goal. Trash, who has been giving back to our community here in Port Huron without ever asking for anything in return. She's doing Trash Bash tomorrow. Literally is only asking for donations, and she is like bringing bands in. She's bringing the community together. Doesn't ask for anything in return. She is an author. She's done a children's book, and if we hit the $10,000 tier, we will bring her children's book to life through the masteries of our brilliant illustrators you see before you today. Evan, Casey, I'm going to unmute Casey. Thank you so much for making the time. Thank you so much for making fun of me. Thank you so much for your so much for your masteries. Thank you so much for interrupting. No. This was awesome. Evan, maybe we work on this next time, but if you also work on it at all over the weekend, we will send everybody an update come next week. Check out our Facebook pages. It's totally free. And the more followers we have, the more you help us for free, which is pretty cool. Matt, any last words?
Without stirring up a conversation and closing, no.
Evan?
I'll see you next week. Next time.
And we're gonna start every other week starting from today. So we're gonna shift every other week. Casey, thank you so much. Is it cool if we get this? If you send us this picture, since it's so much more shaded, put together, and then we'll throw it up.
Yeah, I haven't even had a chance to look at it. Casey, it's looking awesome.
Oh yeah, let's
it really
pop it on the big screen real quick.
Right, get yours out of here again, Evan. Stop. I can't.
Can we feature him?
I don't know. If we can. No. Oh, hold on one second.
And if you look real hard, you can see my reflection, right?
Squint. Can we make it?
Don't worry, it won't be part of the final drawing.
Look at that beauty that you can see. My God.
Oh yeah, very Tim Burton.
And I love that. I will take that as a compliment all day long.
Wow. No, man, this is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for being a part of the Unfound team. You're amazing, Casey.
I meant the reflection.
Thank you so much. I feel like I don't have enough white streaks in my hair to look like Tim Burton, but I'm working on it.
What would you say I look like, Matt?
Jordan the Jester from Behind the Shroud.
What a guy. Best compliment I have all day. Appreciate everybody. Thank you for being here. We are out.